Hello, everyone. My name is Victor Barrios, and this will be my learner lecture. And today I want to talk about when single sign-on fails, the Panera data breach. Um, but I don't want to only focus on what happened. I want to focus on why it happened and what it tells us about modern cybersecurity. The interesting part about this breach is that it wasn't some super advanced virus evolved. There was no malware, and there was no dramatic system crash. Instead, someone basically just got tricked into logging in the attackers. So what happened? In early 2026, a hacker group called Shiny Hunters they got access to Panera Bread systems. They ended up stealing around 14 million records, and about 5 million of those records contained customer contact information, and that information included names, emails, phone numbers, and home addresses. So how did they do it? They used something called phishing, which is just voice phishing. So basically, they called employees pretending to be IT support and convinced them to enter the login information into some fake websites that they got. Once the attackers had those credentials, they didn't need to hack anything. They just logged in. And what I want for y'all to take from the important part of this is that they didn't break in. They just had to log in due to some employee error. So, what is single sign-on? The system that was compromised was part of Microsoft Entra, which uses single sign-on. And single sign-on lets employees log in once, and then they have access to multiple systems inside a company. Yeah, it might be convenient, it saves time, and it reduces password fatigue. But the problem with that is that if someone steals that login information, they suddenly have access to everything connected to it. So while single sign-on makes everything easier, it also concentrates risk in one place. So if the identity system is compromised, the rest of the system just falls like dominoes. So why is this really about authentication? This breach wasn't about a broken firewall. It wasn't about a software bug. It was just about authentication, which is the process of proving who you are. The attackers had real credentials, so from the system's perspective, everything looked normal, right? And that's what makes everything scary. Modern cybersecurity used to focus on keeping attackers out, but now attackers try to look like real users. And if they succeed, well, the system trusts them. So, in a lot of ways, identity has become the new security perimeter. So, instead of attacking computers, attackers are now attacking people. So, why privacy still matters? Panera Bread did come out with a statement saying that only contact information was exposed. There was no credit cards or like no payment details. And that at first that might seem not as urgent or important, but if you really think about it, your contact information is still personal, whether that's your name, your email, phone number, or home address. That's enough information for someone to build a detailed picture of us. And then once the attackers have that, they can use it to send like believable phishing messages, which is what happened with Panera. And if an email includes your real name or references something familiar, well then users are most likely to trust it. And that's how like small data leaks turn into bigger problems. And it just brings a bigger issue about privacy, about how companies and if they should be collecting huge amounts of data, whether that's just for convenience or marketing. And the thing with that is that every piece of data they store becomes something responsible for protecting. Like they're responsible for it, and if they can't protect it, maybe they just shouldn't be collecting as much information in the first place. And privacy isn't just about the money, it's about control over personal information. So here are some discussion questions. Yes, you read it, but for right now, I'm only gonna focus on the first one. Is single sign-on more secure or more risky? And in many ways, single sign-on is more secure. It reduces password fatigue, which means employees are less likely to use the same passwords or just write them down, right? Um, it just allows companies to enforce strong password policies in one central place, and then it makes it easier for them to monitor the login activities and disable accounts quickly if needed. From a management and policy standpoint, single sign-on can improve security, but at the same time, it creates a different type of risk because everything is connected to one central system. If an attacker like steals those passwords or set of credentials, they could gain access from multiple systems at once. So instead of breaking into five separate doors, they only need one master key to open up everything. So it isn't insecure by design. The real issue is how it's protected. And then if it's paired with like strong phishing, multi-factor authentication, and continuous monitoring, it could be very secure. But if those protections are weak, or as what happened with Panera, if employees are tricked through social engineering, then it just becomes a single point of failure. So really, single sign-on is both secure and risky, but it just depends on the how the system is defended. So here are my references. Um, so in conclusion, to me, this breach shows that modern cybersecurity failures are not always technical. Sometimes it's just about authentication and how users trust or failures of trust. And I say that that's something we're probably going to keep seeing more of. Thank you.